This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. Boring. Boring.
Okay, you gotta do it. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're gonna feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. That's exactly what you're doing. You're in no position to dictate what we're gonna feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
Welcome one and all. Lembit Öpik here on Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it like it is on stories from all around the world. Thank you if you have subscribed. We're coming up to another milestone in the number of subscribers. Please be one of those people. It doesn't cost anything, and it helps us a great deal to increase our reach and spread. So that's at Unprecedented TV. You'll get there straight away. Comes up top of the search engine these days. And you'll find a whole set of programs there as well. An avalanche of shows, most of which have a very good shelf life. They do really last. Now, I want to ask a question. How do we know that Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted and now dead under mysterious circumstances paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein did not traffic boys? Why do I ask this question? 3 reasons. First of all, nobody else has asked it. Secondly, because there seems to be a willful desire in the mainstream media never to talk about the abuse of boys and men, domestically or otherwise. And so there's a built-in bias against that discussion. And thirdly, because the government in the United Kingdom is obsessed with stopping violence against women and girls, which is all wrong. It should be stopping violence against victims. Why have they turned this into a sexist phenomenon? Of course, well, I can say of course, but it seems that a majority of victims are female, but a very large minority of victims are male. So the whole thing seems to be loaded in the direction of saying that children were raped as a result of Jeffrey Epstein's exploits. But I'm not so sure. Perhaps you could argue that in the millions of documents which have been shared, there hasn't been evidence of boys being trafficked. But everything isn't out yet. And there are very powerful vested interests trying to prevent certain information from being shared. So I'm putting it to you that rather than apologizing for believing various lies, Keir Starmer could do some good and make some effort to redeem himself, though I suspect his career is now finished, by saying we're going to get to the bottom of all victims, and we're going to make it easy for all victims to be heard. There's one resistance there. A number of people involved in it have died in rather mysterious circumstances, including Epstein himself, who died in a high-security prison facility while being on suicide watch when the cameras all happened to go off. And Virginia Giuffre, never sure quite how to say her surname, she said before she died that if it was made to look like suicide, it was not. And yet that dead man and that dead woman continue to tell tales. And their testimony is bringing down very significant politicians, and I imagine many more to come. So here's my question. How do we find out who was trafficked? And why do we insist on always focusing, in this case and in others, on the victims who are female rather than the victims? Joining me now is somebody who has lots to say on these matters. It's Marilyn Hawes from Freedom from Abuse. Good to see you, Marilyn. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure you've been watching this this unfold, this unsavory and in a way quite provocative story. And we endlessly see the women who've been victims. I don't doubt for a moment that they were. Let's start with this. how close do you think we've got to the truth so far? Because as recently as this week, if you're watching this live, officials in America said there's no evidence in the 3 million plus documents to prosecute anybody. I'm surprised.
Oh, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, that does surprise me because yes, I have been across it all. I have to say, yes, definitely, and been on media and been very verbal about it. I find the whole thing positively repugnant. It's absolutely despicable behaviour. These entitled, wealthy, gross, narcissistic men who think they are entitled to violate women or boys. I find it very hard to believe that there are no boys involved. I've really, with the all sorts of different types of males and women as well that they had over there, I just find it really weird that there weren't boys as well. I had a feeling that there were some. I had a feeling I read that a while ago. I don't believe either that Epstein took his own life. I don't believe that. I think he was got at. He was too bold and I think narcissistic and egotistic to think he would do away with himself. There's questions to me. I think it raises more questions than answers, quite honestly. And I don't think we'll ever know all those that were trafficked, because there were some people that will just want to put it behind them. But the trouble is, with all this going on, you can't put it behind you. It is going to be triggering an awful lot of people, even these women, because when the women we're looking at here, and men, if there are any, and I'm certainly sure there were, it's taking them right back to that gross time when they were being mauled and groped and everything else revolting done to them when they were little girls and little boys. So that memory never goes away. It comes to the front of the mind very quickly. So I don't think there's enough protection for these women who were then girls, because their names haven't been redacted in the documents, and yet some of the people who are wealthy, of course, the more wealthy you are, the more you can pay for people's silence, can't you? That's what annoys me. And it should be without fear or favour. I don't know why they're releasing these documents like there's a load and then there's a load more. Why don't they release them all? And you're really telling me that someone's gone through 3 million pieces of paper and said there's no evidence? The guy who was the pilot, he kept a log, didn't he, of all the people that were on his plane? I don't know.
Well, you have to. There's a legal requirement. The reason that little awkward piece of evidence exists, I'm a pilot myself, is because on commercial flights, you have to keep a record of who's on the plane.
Yes.
Now, I'm sure that the pilot didn't for a moment imagine that his pilot logs would be the subject of global interest. I can't remember the number of times that Bill Clinton was on the plane, but it was dozens. I don't think that they anticipated that, but that's why that logbook doesn't lie, because it's a legal requirement.
Yeah, of course, I haven't thought of that. Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, but everybody, without fear or favour, if you want full transparency, should go over to Congress and say whatever it is and be questioned. All of them, everyone, and of course, none more so than our Andrew Mountbatten and his revolting wife, who's a parasite. She should go as well. I mean, there's so many, as I say, more questions than answers are coming out of this. And I don't think, well, I sincerely hope there's a deep dive done, but the trouble is, there's, I think, too many names that are household names that are going to be in those documents, and people must have known things. They must have known things. There must have been some sort of evidence. What about the housekeeping staff? Everybody should be questioned and be put in front of Congress, in my view. But I don't think you're ever going to get to the full detail of those who are trafficked. I mean, some of those who have come forward and waived anonymity might be putting pressure on some of the others. I mean, how well did they all know each other? I don't know. But it's bad enough getting people coming forward when it's child sex abuse in this country. I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, 70% in this country, it's never reported. So it's a very hard number to come up with. You can imagine it. You can have take a potted guess at it, but I don't think you're ever going to know. It'll be loads.
Yeah, it's hard to see exactly how many times Bill Clinton went to that island. He was unquestionably there, as far as I can see. There's some interesting photographs of him.
What I think is interesting as well, though, that at the time when his name was first mentioned as well, they wouldn't come forward, would they? They just wrote a letter, if I imagine, if I remember rightly. But now he and Hillary have said that they will meet with Congress, which is interesting because why wouldn't you? I mean, if you were innocent, why wouldn't you? If I was innocent, if I was like, say, Andrew now, who obviously had money from his mummy to play that lady off, why would you do that if you're innocent? And if somebody said to me these gross accusations, I'd be on the first plane over there to actually prove my innocence. I'd say, I want to get in front of a court. I want to be in Congress. I want to say I am innocent. I wouldn't sit hiding away in Norfolk or anything else, you know. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I've often wondered why Ghislaine Maxwell has kept her silence, but maybe that's because if she didn't, she might be topped off as well. I don't know why she wants to protect any of these guys.
Oh, well, it'll be self-interest. She's got asset value, I suppose. I'm guessing. Epstein's death was the most peculiar and implausible thing I've heard in years.
Exactly.
That he was on a high security facility on suicide watch. All the cameras go off. When they come on, he's dead. How did he know they were off?
Yes, exactly.
And why would he wait till they're off? Why didn't he commit suicide at some other point when, for the overwhelming majority of the time he was there, the cameras were on?
Exactly right.
Just beggars belief. I just
exactly right.
I don't buy it.
That's why I think someone turned the cameras off and did the dastardly deed. I mean, I was talking to Professor Jane Monckton-Smith the other day about domestic abuse, right? And she mentioned domestic suicide, and she said you'd be amazed how many homicides are made to look like suicide, and that this in particular could be, you know, you don't know, do you? You don't know. I mean, these are very wealthy men who have got a lot to protect, who can pay the right people to do whatever it is they want to do, to take someone out or whatever, and hide away and destroy evidence. I mean, this corruption at its highest level. And I want to see everyone involved in a court and get it over with instead of this drip. So in a year's time, are we going to have another million load of stuff being released? It has to come out, everyone, without fear or favour, in Congress and get it over with. And it's absolutely, I mean, from our point of view here with the royal family, it's hugely damaging because, you know, they should just kick him out onto Civvy Street and say, we're having nothing to do with you, exile him from the family, because he's just... It's not going to get any better for them. There's going to be more coming out.
The team says in a cursory look, and I have to take this on trust, that the flight log for the aircraft indicates that Bill Clinton, former president of the United States of America, flew on what rather disturbingly was called the Lolita Express. That's Jeffrey Epstein's private jet, between 17 and 26 times.
Well, there we go.
Now, I have great friends in other parts of the world, and I haven't gone to see them that often. It's extraordinary. What a huge number of times. My suspicion is also pushed by what you've said there. I wonder if this simply means that they are being resistant for some reason, which is sinister. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Why didn't they simply say, we're happy to cooperate? By the way, let's not dress this up. They refused to give evidence until they were threatened with contempt.
Absolutely.
They were threatened with prosecution for not giving evidence. That's the reason they're going.
Exactly.
I wonder, and I'm not a lawyer, Marilyn, but I wonder if this concern is because of what could be revealed or unsealed in the court documents if they do give evidence. And this is the question.
Yes, that could be right. They're basically outmaneuvering, aren't they? What might happen otherwise, and they will know what's there. They will know what's there. But this is a Hillary Clinton as well, and it's not just him. But there was, I think, I saw a photograph the other day of some very young woman. I would have said teenagers, mid-teens, early teens, whatever, draped all over him. There was a photo that was released in the media, wasn't there? I think there was. I think there was, with him with his arms all around her, and you know, I don't know. I'm certain. I thought, well, I saw that photo, and I thought, oh, Oh, how interesting. I don't think you're quite as innocent as you like to think. And why would you go so many times? I mean, it's crazy. Did he do that many business deals?
17
really?
26 times.
Yeah, I mean,
that's sometimes he flew. So if he was there at least 8 times, it's still a lot. That really is a lot.
Absolutely. It's absurd.
The Carlovitz says, good morning, and well said, Marilyn. And why are they drip feeding these documents? Because I think they're trying to stop them from coming out. That's why. Smokey, the rude word, says, Island Boys. I know this is a thing. Carlovitz seems to agree that the suicide was more like being suicided. And Carlovitz adds that the Clintons are monsters. It is a very strange thing to go that often. And one headline we saw was this: stop calling Epstein's youngest victims underage. They were children. I think that's right.
Absolutely.
It's like that repulsive phrase, minor attracted people.
Don't get me started. That's a whole new conversation we can have. I mean, it is just minimalizing what it minimalizes it. I can't stand this this maps thing. It is not. It is the rape of children. It's absolutely gross. Now you see, you've got me started. I haven't had my breakfast yet. That's why I'm grumpy. I mean, I just. It is gross, and these poor women that have lived through that. I mean, and look at the men that were involved. And for goodness' sake, why don't they take a look in the mirror? I mean, but it's not just even. I mean, you really got to look at what.
Be careful not to name anyone. Be really careful here.
Right.
You can't say. We've seen the people associated, and
Yes,
all the time the mainstream keeps saying, "Oh, but being in the files is no indication of wrongdoing." But then when you start reading it,
yes,
it's just, you begin to think it's just common sense and obvious that heinous crimes are committed. And did all of these people fly to Epstein Island just because the weather was good? Is that the reason they went there instead of Daytona Beach?
Or he had a cellar of wine.
Yeah, this is the thing. And you get after the break, I want to talk about the specific problems faced by our Prime Minister, who in my view is really just in the last chance saloon now, maybe after closing time. But it does seem to me that these stories, they just pile up again and again and again, and understandably people are getting really angry.
And they should be, but I mean, it won't. I mean, and they keep going on about Epstein, the most prolific paedophile. Excuse me, what about Jimmy Savile? What about Jimmy Savile? Yeah. I mean, he was, called the worst person. Lots of them, and you've only got to look at El Fayed, what he was up to. All that's come out. I mean, it is entitled, uber wealthy men that feel that they can do what they like to violate women and boys and men and girls, because it will have happened. You've only got to look at Hugh Edwards. And he was faffing around with young boys, wasn't he? I mean, that it's just revolting.
Well, what he was doing, he was
actually, when I was doing some media last week, and I did quite a bit of it on this, I actually felt quite sick, because I've got a very good imagination, and I just
Hugh Edwards,
it's gross. It's absolutely gross.
Technically,
and when I think of my own boys, I mean, 3 of those that were abused by the head teacher, that really sent me over the cliff.
Technically,
and I try not to imagine it, but it's just vile. And I don't want them to be called animals. They're not animals. Animals don't behave like this. These are monstrous, heinous crimes, and
just to say, technically, Hugh Edwards is prosecuted for having.
Interesting as well, though, is why are all these cameras around? I mean, the horrible, revolting picture of Mandelson and his budgie smugglers, horrible. Oh, it's gross, isn't it? How was a camera there in the room when Andrew was crawling all over? All over that girl on the floor. What was he giving her, sort of resuscitation or something? There's all these cameras. I mean, why did he have these cameras there so that he could blackmail people, do you think? I'm sure there was something in that.
Yeah, I do think that.
Maybe because he was a thoroughly unwholesome person, Epstein, wasn't he? Nothing was going to touch him. It must have been a shock of his life when it all came out. But it hasn't all.
Okay. Sorry, you got cut off a bit suddenly. We'll come back to Marilyn in just a minute. after the break, I want to talk about those things that Marilyn was just saying there. What is exactly happening? What's going on? And with regard to the British Prime Minister, and is he actually going to survive this, or maybe not? We're going to find that out in a minute. In the meantime, let's talk about another great show. It's Tim Scott Uncancelled. He does news reviews so that you don't have to look at the mainstream media for yourself. What's this? That is Tim Scott. He produces great work, lots of investment of time in those things. And if you look at the back catalogue, they've got longevity as well. With me still, we've got Marilyn Hawes, who is still with us.
I can't hear you. I'm going to have to go back in again. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Well, Marilyn will disappear and come back again. That's okay. Yeah, the story so far is that... I had a feeling she couldn't hear me, actually. She was talking for Britain there. Very valuable content, but nevertheless, that's what was happening. So we'll see her back here in a minute. The story so far, though, the question I'm asking today, how do we know that boys were not being trafficked for sexual use by the powerful? And let me stress again this weird thing, that from America we get these official statements that there isn't any evidence in over 3 million documents to prosecute anybody who went to Epstein Island. Is that because literally there wasn't a single scrap of evidence of wrongdoing? Or is this what the redaction's all about? And why does it seem that a number of victims' names have been released, but the perpetrators have been kept secret? What's that all about? There are so many questions here, and those questions seem to come together in the most strange and sinister way to make people like me at least feel that there is something of a conspiracy going on. And the idea that Jeffrey Epstein was the only person, and Maxwell, the woman, the only two people who deserve to be prosecuted, just beggars belief. Can you hear me now, Marilyn?
I can hear you now. No,
I had a feeling that you couldn't hear me because you were like a steamroller. I couldn't stop you. Now I realise you weren't being disrespectful. You just couldn't hear me. So just on this, before we turn to the problem faced by Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, for now, though I do think he's finished now. But
I hope so.
Why is there not a single person who seems to be up for prosecution, even despite all of these millions of documents?
I'm certain sure people are paid off. I really do, honestly. I mean, there's so much money swirling around, isn't there, from these named people that keep coming up, some of the big hitters in society, global names, that they can buy their silence. And I'm certain sure, and with that silence will come threats if they do speak out or whatever, or non-disclosure agreements and all that sort of stuff. I mean, you go back to the Michael Jackson case, and that was shady. He had money to pay people off. It's what they do. It's what they do to stay out of jail. And there should be court orders, I think, on all these people that are named. You can't, because it just does look like a conspiracy. It does look like a cover-up. 3 million documents, and not counting the ones that came out before, that there's nothing to commit people. Nothing. I mean, it won't be till you've got a very good barrister in front of them that can draw out the truth, and then you might get some real evidence, you know?
Yeah, because when you look at, well, there's that picture again. When you look at that just doesn't look like a business meeting to me.
No.
I don't recall being in my office dressed like Mandelson or undressed like Mandelson, talking to my PA in a bathrobe. I don't recall that actually happening. And more to the point, And more to the point, I certainly don't recall that happening while having a photographer in the room.
But I was going to say, why was there a photographer there? That's what I don't understand.
Well,
Why?
it could have been a secret photo.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, you see. Why, yeah, it could well be. But then again, why? Was he using these as a potential blackmail if people didn't play the game? You do get carried away with a conspiracy theory, don't you? But I mean, what man or any woman? I mean, I didn't stand in front of a class with my bikini on, when I do an assembly with sort of,
Well, it's an incredibly embarrassing picture.
Oh,
it's incredibly embarrassing. Even if in some weird alternative universe, Peter Mandelson was with his girlfriend there, if that's his girl, you still wouldn't have that photograph. You still wouldn't walk around like that, would you?
Certainly, I don't think we've ever.
What's he saying here? Oh, I've noticed a typographical error in this speech on line 4. Or is it? Is it going to be the thick cut chips or the fries? I mean, what are they talking about? And the fact that this was this is the man who said he had no close association with Epstein, and that really brings me to the next point: that there's one man who was totally gullible enough to believe him. There he is. Keir Starmer, just a man who's actually apologized, but he hasn't. I'll come to the apology in a minute. But he's apologized for believing Mandelson's lies. I could have told him that Mandelson's a liar. I worked with Mandelson when Mandelson was, for some weird reason, made Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, and he lied. He lied. He double-crossed me and the late David Trimble once, and I was incandescent about it because he lied for convenience. I called him at least twice, and I wasn't willing to work with him after that. But interestingly enough, he actually got fired just after he did that, so I didn't have to make a decision because he was booted out by Blair.
But Starmer, I don't think Blair was any better, quite frankly. Starmer, he did know. I mean, you don't put somebody in the role of an ambassador, do you, when he already had history, Mandelson? I mean, to do that stupid apology yesterday, talk about being sincerely insincere. I mean, good Lord. I mean, there was no strength in that apology at all. It was just flimsy tissue paper. And he was trying too hard to, it just wasn't genuine. It totally wasn't genuine. And how anyone in the position that he's in would even risk someone with that sort of background that he knew, oh, he made the wrong decision. Yeah, you did, mate. You made the wrong decision, because no one in their right mind it would have been like me when I was deputy head. Oh, somebody fiddled with children. Oh, we won't bother about that because that was then and this is now, so they can come and work in the school. You don't take that risk. You don't. Somebody that's going to go across as your ambassador, who's got flaky history, and you set them up, and then he says he's sorry. Well, yeah, sorry. We're all sorry that you just make the wrong decisions all the time.
There's a political reason, even if by some weird and twisted, perverse turn of fate, Keir Starmer had managed to miss everything that Mandelson has done in the last 30 years. He missed everything from 1997 till now. Somehow. He just didn't notice that Mandelson had to resign twice for impropriety.
Yeah, but,
and did he spot the fact that Mandelson was knocking about with Epstein and had no idea that Mandelson had apparently been associated financially? The Mandelson seems to deny he even knows about the money, $75,000 from Epstein. Even if he knew none of that, why did he appoint someone as ambassador from Britain to the United States who called Trump, and I quote Mandelson, a danger to the world? That's not a good look, Marilyn. If my neighbor called me a danger to the world and then came round and said, would you give me a job? Or I'd like to negotiate with you, I'd say, I can't because I'm too dangerous.
I mean, really, if it wasn't
That's
so
what I'd
serious,
say.
it really is comedic. It really is. I mean,
Danger
but
to
he
the
was,
world.
let's be honest, to be fair, he was the son of a toolmaker. Rest my case.
I know some great tool makers, but the problem is this: the apology. Starmer apologized, and he doesn't apologize for getting it wrong. Oh, there we are. There's it. Can we get that full screen for a moment, please? He doesn't apologize for thank you. He doesn't apologize for being wrong. I'm sorry for believing Mandelson's lies. What I'm reading there is, I'm sorry for being so stupid that even though pretty much anybody who's half decent has been around in politics at some point in the last 30 years knew Mandelson was a bad egg, he didn't. The Prime Minister of Britain thought that Mandelson was an okay guy to send to America to negotiate with the danger to the world.
He's just not credible, is he? I mean, honestly, the man's an idiot. He really is. I mean, you just don't take those risks. You really don't. I mean,
strong language, but I mean, yeah. Paul C6 says, yeah, he's sorry because he got caught.
Well, that's it.
Right.
That's exactly right. That's what they all do. Yeah. You know, I mean, a number of times with the work I do around, you know, child abusers, they're only sorry and they're not really remorseful. They say sorry because they've been caught.
Colin says he always looks like he's just being sand in the cookie jar. You can imagine it when he was 15, or maybe even at this age, he'll be sitting there scoffing all the chocolate digestive biscuits, and the chief of biscuit delivery to Downing Street says, "What the hell do you think you're doing? They're for the guests." Oh, what? Well, I don't know. Come on. The point is that I thought that I would be allowed to eat the biscuits because I was told that they were for me. Who by? Peter Mandelson. And I'm sorry for believing his lies. I mean, this is it. It's as stupid as that.
But he thinks we're stupid. He doesn't think that we've got a brain cell between our ears. That's what I find so absolutely awful. Is that
let's set fire. Let's set fire to this timber yard. Oh,
yeah.
do you think it's all right, Peter? Yes. Okay. I mean, this is the thing. Peter Mandelson told me to do it because he told me it was okay to steal your car. I mean, this is the ridiculous thing. We've got a Prime Minister who believed Peter Mandelson. Or worse than that, he thinks we believe his excuse.
I've never liked Peter Mandelson. I mean, I've not known him. I've never met him. I've not known him like you've known him. But there's something about him that I've always thought, I don't trust you. He's got a very... He's very articulate, but he's very measured in the way he speaks. And there is something quite, I think, slightly patronizing in the way he addresses people. I've never liked him. I've never liked him. And I have this very powerful instinct where I don't know why I didn't like him. But I can't stand people that lie. People that lie, I have a real problem with. I could not. But you know what? He didn't say, Starmer. He goes on about, for the people that were, for those children that were, blah, blah, blah. I can't do it like you do. You're very funny. He never apologized. He doesn't. Can I just say, he doesn't say anything about the poor kids in this country that are being raped by asylum seekers, raped by gangs. Oh no, he doesn't apologize for that. He doesn't. He is nowhere near it. He is just unfit for purpose. He is just not the real deal. No, I don't. But then again, I don't know who anybody is in the Labour Party. If he steps down, what are you going to get next?
I did have. Well, I'll talk about it in a minute. I did have a number of meetings with him, and can we just put that earlier one up? Yeah. I had a number of meetings with Peter Mandelson about Northern Ireland, and he never dressed like that in the meetings. If I was presenting some document to him, he didn't stand up like that from behind the desk.
No, but he obviously thinks that's the crown jewels he's got on display.
What's he doing? Is he showing off? Is he proud?
It's gross.
By the way, when I first saw this picture, I didn't notice his lower half. I was surprised that he was in a room with a woman. He made this big. What surprised me. He made this big play about saying that Jeffrey Epstein didn't seem to involve him in all his sexual shenanigans because he knew that Peter Mandelson was a homosexual, and it's like the whole thing becomes very confusing. To be honest with you,
it's completely sordid.
Whoever that person is, either well, actually, I'm not going to start speculating because there are so many different versions. But whoever that person is, it just astounds me that there's a photograph of him standing like that.
But if that
It's
was a
just
business
extraordinary.
meeting,
And if you think about it, either he let someone take that picture, or it was taken surreptitiously. Why? What was the reason then?
Well,
Either way, this is really bad.
I would say it was a hidden camera, because surely no one just, I mean, and what's she doing? I mean, truly, I mean, she's there in her bathrobe. So yes, it does beg a belief, but maybe he was bisexual sometimes. I don't know. I don't even want to think about it then, but I'm sorry. It's just gross.
I don't know. I don't know him, and I've never been interested really. What bothers me mainly is the fact that we've got a prime minister who genuinely couldn't figure this out.
Yes, exactly, exactly right. But I mean, who advises the prime minister? That's the point. I mean, surely somebody
a guy called McSweeney, who's basically a lot of people calling for his resignation. But that's difficult because McSweeney is the architect, arguably, of Starmer's arrival in Downing Street.
Yes. Yes.
But meanwhile, this is all going on. We've got victims, and I really feel for them. Epstein Files Transparency Act. We've got this Transparency Act. It was meant to get everything published, but instead you've got hundreds of blacked out pages.
Yeah.
And you've got victims' names being released, but perpetrators' names not being released.
Absolutely outrageous. There was a young lady on the other day. It was on an Indian show that I was on, and she was saying about how awful it was that these names, you should never have named the victims, never, whilst you protect the perpetrator. Dreadful.
It is. It's breathtaking, actually.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that in itself is criminal, really, because you know there never is, and that's what always really. I don't know why I do the job I do, because there never is any concern for the victims. You know, I mean, it's just awful. You know, I really do feel for the impact that these women, but for anyone, the men that have been sexually abused and raped or any of it, it's just gross. And if I can put just one person away, then my oxygen's been worth it. And if I can shame and embarrass somebody, like, I mean, this is great stuff that is being put out there, that Starmer is unfit for purpose, is just, I mean, he lies. That's what gets me. I'm sorry I believed his lies. Well, he must be the biggest liar that's ever set foot in number 10.
Yeah, and you've got so much rage here, molesting children. That's right, raping children. Let's use the real words. Not minor attracted.
That's what gets me about the grooming gangs. No, they're rape gangs, murderous rape gangs. That's what they are.
Grooming. Grooming is what you do in the barbers. Raping is what you do in the gangs.
With your horse, yeah, absolutely. But you know, there was a photo as well of I saw last week of Epstein chasing around two very, very young, like I would say, like 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, chasing around a table. He must have had cameras all over the place.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, no, there's a video of him chasing around these two young girls.
Who chasing? Who was doing the chasing?
Epstein.
All right.
So who was in the room? It wasn't secret cameras. He must have had cameras everywhere, because he would then get off. I mean, if he had them in his bedrooms and other rooms where he performed his acts, he would then get off on the fact he can revisit it, won't he?
A quick one more round of messages. And if you want to put a message in, go to @unprecedented TV. You can get involved in the chat. Paul C6 says, yes, he thinks this country's people are as thick as two short planks. I'd say as thick as he is.
I find that offensive. That's what I find offensive. But they treat us like we're idiots. And honestly, I mean, year 7 in my local secondary school down the road would make a better prime minister than this idiot.
In a long message, Phil Zimmerman says, and it's definitely worth reading, he's evil to the core and utterly stupid. Why is this behavior some big new revelation? Why is no one mentioning genocide now? There's a lot of sympathy for what you're saying there.
I'll tell you what, Lembit. The only time I
wait a minute, I'll just go through the other ones because speculation about various famous people's interests, and in terms of that picture of the girl with Peter Mandelson's question from Richard Kilkinski, from from Paul C6. How old is she? Interesting question. Richard rather cryptically says Mandelson might be hotel and motel. I'm not sure what that means. I hope I haven't said something really rude. And can understand the girl's protection, but why black out the senders of these emails? Asks Paul C6. That's the point you're making too. They seem to have some protection.
Exactly right. But Starmer,
yeah, you're going to say.
If you remember, you might remember, and maybe the listeners remember, but I've never forgotten it. There was a young lady called Frances Andrade, and she was, she was a music student at Chetham's Music School, right? And she married and had 3 children. And then it came out that the violin teacher was a paedophile, sex abuser, child abuser, and some of her friends from the school wanted to take it to court. She didn't want to, and but then they convinced her to do it. So she goes into court, and while she's in the witness box, the barrister was saying, "You are a fantasist and a liar, aren't you, Mrs. Andrade?" She said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." Anyway, so it goes on, and about 3 days later, she took her own life. Now, at that point, Starmer was CPS, right? So he decided he was going to, this can never happen again in court where barristers talk to witnesses like that. Well, I'm telling you, it happens all the time. It still happens all the time. Anyway, he wanted to do a white paper for the Victims' Rights Bill, and he called some people to a round table, of which I was one. And we were getting on very well. We used to go into Westminster, so that we had about 2 or 3 meetings. And this was about the time when Jeremy Corbyn was a leader of the Labour Party. And on the horizon was Brexit, right? And all of a sudden, and I came home one day and I thought, I don't trust him, because I think he's hanging on to Corbyn's shirt tails because he actually wants to be the leader of the Labour Party himself. And I thought, and there's Brexit coming. Anyway, he evaporated. He just evaporated. We all turned up for another meeting. There was about a dozen of us. And there was no mention of him, from his PA, nothing. And we all went into London and just sat there like a load of idiots. And it just, all his intention and his, we cannot have this in court, which can never happen again. Oh, so sincere that he then evaporates because he wants to get involved with Brexit and get ever closer to Jeremy Corbyn. We never had an apology. We never had anything. We were completely ghosted. So this thing that he wanted that was absolutely of imperative importance, yes, it would have been no interest, because he wants to be leader of the Labour Party. From that moment on, I have never trusted him. Never trusted him.
Let's finish where we started. And we found this article. Well, boys learn when powerful men face no consequences. Accountability or its absence sends a powerful message to young men and boys. Men and boys, men and boys, men and boys. What about female abusers? What about gay men who abuse boys? What about some females who abuse males sexually? And it does happen. People think, oh, that's really silly. These things all happen. You know it because you run Freedom from Abuse.
Absolutely.
This is the problem. And I don't really know much about the organization that published this, but what I'm worried about is the fact that this is being used, the whole Epstein thing is being used to reinforce the idea that abuse is something that females suffer and is done by men.
Well, it's not. I mean, this is why when I do my training and all that, I don't put gender into it. I don't put gender into it because you're an abuser. You have sex, rape a child. You're an abuser. If you're, I try to leave it out because, of course, there are women, and you see it. And sometimes the abusers will actually, if you're looking at photographs and stuff, there's been several cases where women in nursery schools have taken photographs of changing nappies and stuff like that, and they will give those photos to men. So they work sometimes in cahoots with the male abusers as well. But there are plenty of women that do it. And of course, because we are seem to be nurturing children on our laps and cuddling them and all that sort of thing, they get away with it. Women are manipulative. Women are very devious at hiding their trail. It's less obvious. That's why if anyone's out there wants to do any dissertation on something, I would love one to be done on female abusers, both domestically, because when you get domestic abuse, you will get sex abuse as well. You will get animal abuse. Because it's all about, the power over the vulnerable, because I can. And it's revolting. It's horrible. It absolutely destroys people.
Yeah, we're out of time, but let me just read these. Richard says, I know there's some really abusive wives and girlfriends, and I've experienced it years ago. And Paul says, me too. And I respect, and Paul adds, very violent she was. This is the point. And well, credit to you, Paul, for still being here. Yes, I've seen this, and I am incensed by the sexual discrimination being promoted by this government and others, saying that abuse is something that is done to women and girls. It repulses me, in fact, because talking with Paul Brooks, who is the head of Mankind, he thinks there are well over 1 million. I can't remember the exact.
Oh no,
it's well over 1 million male victims right now.
There's very little difference. I mean, when I wrote the course on toxic relationships, which I have done in schools with young teenagers, it's nearly always the boys that come up and talk to me afterwards that they didn't realize what they were in. They didn't like it, but they didn't realize what they were in was an actual toxic relationship. And a lot of these boys, there's a young man that is in prison at the moment, he's innocent. But the girl and Mankind have been involved helping. I got them involved to help visit this boy. He's an absolute sweetheart. And of course, he was targeted by this vile teenage girl. But when she got to court, she took him to court. And when she got to court, she made sure that her friend punched her in the eye. So she had black eyes. And he went down because the magistrate, the judge, said, well, look what you've done to her. He said, but I haven't done it, Your Honour. And it turned out that her girlfriends had done it, so that she could set him up. It's absolutely awful, and it really does annoy me. And there's only, what is so awful is, it is such a minuscule difference between boys that are in very toxic relationships to girls. That can't then change. If those people are toxic, they're toxic. They remain toxic. And so they take that into their adult life. And there's only 400 safe spaces in the whole of the UK for men that are in abusive relationships. 400. You could fill that in half of London for the men that are probably going through this. It's dreadful. And yet everywhere you go, there's loads of safe houses for women. Loads. Thank you. And 400, that's all.
We've got to finish there. I just want to ask you if you can share, where can people find out more about Freedom from Abuse? Oh,
freedom-abuse.org. And then my phone number's there, my email's there. You will get me. We don't have we don't have a helpline. We're not like the NSPCC, who frankly don't do enough. We don't have a helpline, or you come through to my phone. If it goes through to voicemail, I will get back to you. I always do. And I'm currently, after I was on a show last week, all morning yesterday, I was dealing with reports of people who have been ignored by the police, desperately ignored by the police, ignored by social services. And I'm trying, I've got about 4 or 5 of them, and it's time consuming. And really my role is to try and prevent the abuse in the first place. And there's some shocking stories I hear, shocking stories. I'm also involved, and it's taken me 3 months to sort this out, with the Kurdish men up in Newcastle that have got women holed up in houses and things. And finally, I've got the organised crime squad involved up there. That's taken 3 months. And a lot of emails and a lot of calls, and I will not go away. I'm like an irritant terrier, because at the moment, these girls are being threatened with murder if they tell. So at the moment, I'm fighting, trying to get witness protection for them. So that'll be interesting.
Right. Well, we've got to stop there. Thank you so much, Marilyn. That's Marilyn Hawes, Freedom from Abuse. And I can see a number of you have been affected by this as well. I have noticed that here at Unprecedented, we take abuse seriously, not against women and girls. We don't sexually discriminate. Abuse against victims. And I'm working on a project to try to highlight abuse experienced by men, which is no less serious than the abuse experienced by women and girls. My opinion is that it's exceedingly unlikely boys were not trafficked in some way by Epstein. Why would he discriminate? If he had clients or customers, rich and powerful people, even though we're told not one person qualifies for prosecution, which I don't believe, but if we're told that he had these powerful guests, Did not one of them have an interest in boys? Find that hard to believe. Let's see how close we get to the truth in this Epstein situation. But for now, let's remember our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has apologized for believing Mandelson's lies. He should be apologizing for not doing a better job as Prime Minister and for appointing somebody who was evidently unsuited to represent British interests in America in the first place. Thanks very much for watching. Lots more shows coming up. Do go to the archive, but please, 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 one request. Just take like 1 minute now to subscribe, like and subscribe at Unprecedented TV. It'll come top of the search engine. Just click. It's free, but it really helps us a lot. I'm Lembit Öpik. That was Marilyn Hawes on the Lembit Öpik Live on Unprecedented TV.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.